thought escaping my family would mean freedom. Instead, I became the villain in their story, accused of the very thing I was trying to stop. Maybe I saved her, or maybe I ruined everything.
Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day.
I grew up in a house where love was a prize, and the only way to earn it was by betraying the people closest to you. My parents made snitching into a full-time sport. Imagine living with 4 siblings, but each one was basically a spy, ready to turn you in for the smallest mistake. That was my childhood. I was the middle kid, which meant I was easy to forget. Or at least that's what they thought. I saw everything. And while my parents believed they had complete control, I was the one they underestimated. Take my older brother Nate, for example. He would have sold his soul for my dad's approval. One night, it was just me and him in my room. I accidentally spilled a single drop, literally one drop, of cranberry juice on the beige carpet. My heart stopped. I panicked, grabbed my shirt, spit on it, and started scrubbing like my life depended on it. But by the time I looked up, Nate was already halfway down the stairs. Neil spilled his juice upstairs. "He's so clumsy," he yelled. And then came the sound. My dad's footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving toward the drawer where he kept that black leather whip. I didn't even fight it. I just lay on my stomach, shoved a pillow in my mouth, and braced myself. 1, 2, 3. No dinner for me that night. Just hours of muffled crying into my sheets while Nate was downstairs being praised like some kind of hero. "You're so mature, my handsome boy," my mom gushed. "I'm proud of you, son," my dad boomed. I was 4. Nate was 6. And that was just the beginning. That same year, my younger twin sisters were born. For a while, my parents put on the act, sweet words, hugs, bedtime stories. But the second those girls turned 3, boom, the affection vanished. Suddenly, love had strings attached. "You want kindness? You better snitch." By the time I was 10, I had been beaten more times than I could count. The crimes were ridiculous. Crumbs on my plate, crying too loud, even wearing clothes that revealed the bruises they gave me. My siblings, though, they got it maybe once or twice a year because they learned fast. Tattle on each other, stay safe. But me, I couldn't do it. Even if I caught them breaking rules I never told. Sometimes I even took the blame. It wasn't noble. It was survival. But it made me their safe zone. Nate, the twins, they all felt protected around me. Funny thing was, none of them ever returned the favor. Not once. Because as much as they cared about me, they cared more about mom and dad's approval. And over time, that warped everything. I became the troublemaker. Didn't matter if I was innocent. If I snored too loudly, my mattress was gone for a week. Accidentally used Nate's cologne? No showering for 3 days. It was endless. By the time I hit 18, family was a word that made me angry. I'd see families hugging on TV, and it didn't look heartwarming. It looked fake. I'd spent so long just trying to survive that school barely mattered. My GPA was a whopping 1.0, but I didn't care. All I knew was that I needed out. So when college season came, I scraped together what I could and paid a classmate to let me sleep on the floor of his dorm. Yeah, I literally lived on the floor. Still, it was better than home. The first real shock came when his parents visited for Thanksgiving. My chest felt like it was going to explode all week. I was terrified of messing up. When they knocked on the door twice instead of once, I froze. Then I opened it, eyes squeezed shut, bracing for, well, what I was used to. But instead of blows, I heard, "Thank you for opening so quickly." His mom even hugged me. I spent the whole night tense, sitting silently, ready to jump up and scrub something if they asked. And when they left, I expected my friend to rip me apart. But no, he hugged me too, said thanks for helping with his parents. That's when it hit me. My parents weren't strict. They weren't tough. They were cruel. And they had broken me. The very next day, my phone rang. It was my twin sister, Kayla. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please help me. I'm sorry." Then she hung up. I didn't hesitate. The next morning, I drove straight to that house and got her out. Back at my dorm, she lifted her shirt, and my heart sank. Bruises. Everywhere. They'd needed a new target after I left. And she was it. I patched her up while she apologized over and over. Like any of it was her fault. It wasn't. None of it was. My anger was focused on 2 people only, mom and dad. My friend Thomas helped me hide her behind his desk during room checks. We smuggled food from the cafeteria. And for the first time, Kayla actually slept through the night. No fear. No flinching. Just peace. But of course, peace never lasts. The calls started the next day. "Neil, honey, have you seen Kayla? We're so worried." My mom cooed into voicemail, her sweetness faker than Splenda. Then came Dad. "Bring her back now or there will be consequences." I blocked them. But then Mason, my other brother, started calling. "Hey, little bro, mom and dad are just worried. Nobody's mad." Yeah, right. I knew the script. Mason had always been their mouthpiece. Kayla was terrified. She jumped at footsteps in the hallway, refused to go outside, even curled up in a ball while sleeping, like she was still protecting herself in her dreams. "What if they call the police?" she whispered one night. "What if they say you kidnapped me?" I froze. I hadn't even thought about that. She was still a minor. If they played the law against me, I was done. But sending her back? Not an option. Not after what I'd seen. We'll figure it out, I promised, even though I had no clue how. Thomas later warned me his RA was getting suspicious. We needed a new spot, fast. My part-time coffee shop job barely covered food. But then luck struck. Melissa from my psych class mentioned her apartment had a storage room. Small but enough for a mattress. I almost hugged her on the spot. We moved Kayla in that weekend. Melissa and her roommates, Alexis and Victoria, didn't ask many questions. My stepdad was trash too, Victoria said while helping Kayla unpack. I get it. For the first time, Kayla had other girls around her. She started to relax. I kept crashing at Thomas's, working extra shifts, and visiting her whenever I could. For a little while, life felt survivable. Until Mason walked into the coffee shop. There he was, North Face jacket, smug smile, acting like nothing had happened. Hey little brother, can we talk? I led him to a quiet corner. What do you want? He sighed. I know you're mad, but this thing with Kayla, it's gone too far. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Good, I snapped. They should be. Do you even know what they did to her? They said she was acting out, breaking rules. You know how she can be. I cut him off. I saw the bruises, Mason. They beat her because she didn't snitch on Cynthia. That's not discipline. That's torture. They're strict, he muttered, lowering his voice. But they love us. They just want what's best. I almost laughed. Is that what you tell yourself so you can sleep at night? That fear and pain equals love. He narrowed his eyes. You've always been dramatic. Always playing the victim. I'm not playing anything. I'm protecting her. She's a minor, Neil. This is kidnapping. Mom and Dad could press charges. There it was, the threat. Then let them, I said, my voice shaking but steady. I'll show the cops every bruise. I'll tell them everything. Is that what Mom and Dad want? For the world to know. For the first time, Mason looked rattled. His mask cracked. Just, let me talk to her. 5 minutes. I shook my head. Not happening. Tell Mom and Dad to leave us alone. We're done being their punching bags. I stood to go, but Mason grabbed my arm. His voice dropped. They know where you work now. They'll find her eventually. You can't hide her forever. I pulled my arm free. Watch me. As soon as my shift ended, I bolted straight to Melissa's apartment. Mason had shown up at my job, which meant my cover was blown, and I had to warn Kayla. But when I stepped inside, there she was, curled up on the couch with swollen, red eyes. My other twin sister, Cynthia. Hi, Neil, she whispered, like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my chest. I froze in the doorway. What the hell are you doing here? Before Cynthia could speak, Kayla jumped in. She came to check on me. She was worried. Worried? Really? The timing was too perfect. Mason corners me at work, and suddenly Cynthia magically appears here? My instincts were screaming. How did you even find this place? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Cynthia dropped her gaze to her hands. I followed you after class one day. I just wanted to make sure Kayla was okay. Yeah, right. I pulled Kayla into her tiny makeshift bedroom, the storage room she'd been calling home. I whispered, did you tell her where we're staying? She shook her head frantically. No, I swear. She just showed up like an hour ago. She said she misses me. When I peeked back into the living room, Cynthia was glued to her phone, tilting the screen away like a guilty kid sneaking candy. My gut twisted. This is a setup, I hissed to Kayla. Mason shows up at my job, now Cynthia shows up here? They're working together to track you down. Kayla's eyes filled with terror. What do we do? Pack your stuff. We're leaving. Now. While she shoved her few belongings into a backpack, I sat across from Cynthia, pretending to be casual. Who are you texting? She didn't even look up. Just a friend. Can I see? I asked, keeping my tone light. She bristled. Why don't you trust me? Her voice trembled, trying, and failing, to sound offended. Because you're acting shady? I shot back. Her face fell. They're just worried about her. Neil. They want her to come home. To what? So they can beat her again? No thanks. It's not like that, she insisted. They promised they'd change. They feel awful about what happened. I almost let myself believe her. But then her phone buzzed, and I caught a glimpse of the message lighting up her screen. It was from Mom. Is she coming? Dad's waiting in the car. My blood turned to ice. They were outside. Right now. You need to leave. I barked, standing up. Neil, please. Now. I rarely raised my voice, but when I did, it landed. Cynthia flinched, snatched her coat, and muttered on her way out. They're going to find her eventually. You can't keep her hidden forever. As soon as the door shut, I texted Melissa. Don't come home. It's not safe. Then Kayla and I slipped out the back exit just as Dad's car rolled up to the front. That night we hid in a dingy motel, the kind that smells like bleach and cigarette smoke. I blew the last of my paycheck on it. Kayla cried herself to sleep while I sat by the window, eyes locked on the parking lot, waiting for headlights I prayed wouldn't come. Why won't they just leave us alone? She sobbed. I didn't have an answer. Control? Fear of exposure? Maybe both. All I knew was we couldn't keep running like this. The next morning, I called in sick and used the motel's garbage Wi-Fi to research. A site for teenage runaways said that at 16, Kayla might qualify for emancipation with proof of abuse. But proof meant going to court, showing strangers her bruises, reliving everything. I wasn't sure she could handle that. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. It was a photo of us entering the motel the night before. Underneath, "We know where you are. Bring her home or we call the police." I showed Kayla. She went pale. "They're going to take me back." "No, they're not," I promised, even though my voice shook, even though I had no idea how. We checked out immediately and caught a bus toward campus. I begged Thomas to let us crash one more night. He agreed, but warned his RA was on high alert. When we got near his dorm, I spotted them. A campus security officer, standing with my mother. My mother, smiling sweetly, chatting like she belonged there. My heart nearly exploded. I yanked Kayla the other way. "They're everywhere," she whispered, panic rising. I spotted the library. "In here." We tucked ourselves into a third-floor corner. Kayla pretended to read while I frantically called Melissa. No answer. Then I tried Victoria. She picked up. "Hey, weird question," she said carefully. "But, did you tell your parents where you're staying? Because they came by this morning asking for you and Kayla." My chest tightened. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. Melissa told them to leave or she'd call the cops. They left, but they were pissed." Great. Another safe spot gone. By evening, I had less than $20 in my pocket, nowhere to sleep, and nowhere to hide. We ended up in a 24-hour laundromat, taking turns dozing off on those hard plastic chairs. When I woke up, Kayla was gone. My heart stopped, until I spotted her outside, phone pressed to her ear. She came back in, her face unreadable. "Who was that?" I demanded. "Cynthia," she admitted. "She wants to meet. Just me and her." "Absolutely not. It's a trap." Kayla sat beside me. "What if it's not? She says she wants to help. She feels bad." I laughed bitterly. "She felt bad last time too. Right before she almost delivered you straight into Mom and Dad's hands. She swears they're at work. She just wants to talk." And there it was, that desperate hope in Kayla's eyes. Hope that at least one sibling was on her side. And honestly, I got it. I'd wished for the same thing for years. "Fine," I said at last. "But we do it on my terms. Public place. And I never take my eyes off you." We met at a campus coffee shop, neutral ground. Cynthia was already there, alone, looking exhausted. "Thank you for coming," she murmured. "I'm sorry about yesterday. They made me do it." "Made you how?" I asked. "They said if I didn't help find Kayla, they'd—" She trailed off, glanced at Kayla and whispered, "They'd treat me like they treated you." And just like that, my anger melted into something else. I knew that fear all too well. "Then why help us now?" I pressed. "They don't know I'm here." I told them I was at the library. She reached into her backpack and slid an envelope across the table. Inside, $300 in cash. "It's my birthday money," she explained. "I want you to have it. For Kayla." For a second, I was speechless. After years of betrayal, this small gesture felt almost alien. "There's more," Cynthia whispered. "They're going to report Kayla as a runaway tomorrow. They've already talked to the police. They're saying, Neil, that you kidnapped her, that you manipulated her into running away." Of course, it was classic Mom and Dad. Years of painting me as the problem, the screw-up. Now it was their weapon. "Then we beat them at their own game," I said. "We get evidence. Photos. Witnesses." Kayla lifted her phone. "I took pictures. Back when you first brought me to Thomas's. I was scared no one would believe me later." "Smart girl." "I can be a witness too," Cynthia offered quietly. "I'm tired of living in fear." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we weren't completely alone. But then my phone buzzed with a campus-wide alert. "Safety notice. Missing student." Kayla's face. My name. A warning. She may be in the company of her brother, who could be unstable. "They're turning the whole campus against us," I muttered. We needed help. Real help. And I knew exactly who to ask. Dr. Walter Barnes, my psych professor. He'd worked with Child Protective Services before. If anyone could guide us, it was him. I emailed him, desperate. He replied within minutes. "Meet me in my office this afternoon. At 3 p.m. The three of us slipped through back paths. Kayla's hood pulled low. When we reached his office, he was waiting. "Neil," he said, ushering us inside. "I saw the alert. I assume that's why you're here." And finally, I spilled everything. The abuse. The games. The bruises. Kayla showed him photos. Cynthia backed it all up with stories of her own. Dr. Barnes's face grew darker with every word. "What you're describing is serious child abuse," he said gravely. "And the fact no one noticed this long is alarming." "No one noticed," I said bitterly, "because we were trained not to tell. And they knew exactly where to leave marks." He nodded grimly. "I believe you, and I want to help. But Neil, you need to understand, by taking Kayla without legal authority, you've complicated things." I swallowed hard. What else was I supposed to do? Leave her there. I get it. But now we need to get ahead of their narrative. First step, File a formal CPS report. That will open an investigation. With evidence this severe, Kayla might get emergency placement. Possibly Cynthia, too, if she's willing. Cynthia's eyes widened. Me? Yes. If you corroborate the abuse, you could be removed as well. And your twin sister, too. For the first time, the path forward seemed real. But what about Neil? Kayla asked, gripping my arm. Dr. Barnes sighed. That's more complicated. Technically, Neil, you did take a minor without permission. You could face charges. The unfairness of it made my chest ache. I was protecting her. I know, he said firmly. But the only way through this is to be proactive. File the report. Then voluntarily present yourselves to the authorities with me by your side. If we move fast, we can control the narrative before your parents spin it further. Cynthia's voice shook. And them? What happens to them? If the allegations hold, they could face criminal charges. At the very least, they'll lose custody. Felt unreal. My parents' actual consequences? They'd always been untouchable. Always smiling, always perfect in the eyes of everyone else. Dr. Barnes leaned forward. They will deny everything. They'll fight hard. They'll try to destroy Neil's credibility. Are you all ready for that? Kayla didn't hesitate. She nodded. Cynthia bit her lip, then nodded too. I'm tired of being afraid. I want it to stop. And with that, Dr. Barnes helped us file the CPS report. He documented the bruises, took statements, made the calls, arranged for a caseworker to meet us at campus police. And for the first time in my life, it felt like we weren't just surviving. We were fighting back. When we arrived, Beverly, the CPS worker, was waiting. She had kind eyes, but carried herself with the no-nonsense attitude of someone who'd seen it all. She listened carefully as we told our story again, studied Kayla's photos, scribbled notes, and finally said the words I'd been desperate to hear. I'm filing for an emergency removal order. Kayla and Cynthia won't be going home tonight, and we'll check on your other sister immediately. Relief washed over me, until the campus police got involved. Their sympathy? Non-existent. One officer kept calling it a family dispute, as if we just argued over chores. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "We'll need to notify your parents we found Kayla." My chest clenched. You can't send her back. Look at her photos. There's an active CPS case now. The officer glanced at Beverly, who gave a sharp nod. She's right. Both girls will be placed in foster care pending investigation. Relief again, quickly replaced by dread. What about me? Am I being arrested? The officer sighed like I was an inconvenience. Not at this time, but don't leave town. The investigation is ongoing. And just like that, my phone buzzed. A text from Mason. Mom and Dad know you went to the police. They're on their way. They're furious. I showed Beverly. Within minutes, we were rushed into a private room. Just in time. Through the window, I saw their car pull up. My dad storming inside first, face tight with controlled rage. My mom right behind him, already perfecting her concerned parent act. I want to see my daughters. My father boomed at the front desk. They've been missing for days. We've been worried sick. Through the wall, I could hear my mother's high-pitched theatrics. My son has always been troubled. He's filling Kayla's head with lies. He's the real problem. I sat frozen, heart hammering, while Beverly squeezed my hand gently. This is common in abuse cases. Abusers always discredit the one who speaks up. Maybe so, but it didn't stop the dread. My parents were convincing. They'd been rehearsing their perfect family act for years. Finally, Beverly returned. We found a temporary foster placement for both girls. Kayla's face fell. What about Neil? Can't he come too? Beverly shook her head. I'm sorry, honey. He's an adult. The system is only for minors. Tears welled in Kayla's eyes. But he's the only one who's ever protected us. I hugged her tight, swallowing my own fear. It's okay. This is temporary. We're doing the right thing. Then came the gut punch. An officer walked in, voice flat. Your parents are pressing kidnapping charges against you. They're speaking to the district attorney right now. My stomach dropped. That's absurd, Beverly snapped. He was protecting his sister from abuse. That's for the courts to decide. The officer shrugged. Neil will need another statement. As Kayla and Cynthia were led away with Beverly, I sat in that interview room, cold and alone, wondering if I was about to be arrested for saving my sister's life. The officer hammered me with the same questions on repeat, trying to trip me up. Did you know it was illegal? Did you realize you could face jail time? Were you aware your parents are respected citizens just trying to protect their daughter? I wanted to scream. Finally, the door opened. Dr. Barnes stepped in with another man in a suit, Stephen, a lawyer from the university's legal aid clinic. He placed a firm hand on my shoulder. Neil won't be answering any more questions without legal counsel. The cop scowled but shut his notebook. They're pushing hard for kidnapping charges, Stephen told me once we were alone. But we have a strong case. It's called the necessity defense. You had every reason to believe Kayla was in imminent danger. All I could do was nod, drained beyond words. Are the girls safe? Dr. Barnes nodded firmly. Beverly placed them with an experienced foster family. Your parents can't touch them. That night, I stayed at Dr. Barnes's house, probably breaking a dozen university rules, but I didn't care. It was the first time I felt somewhat safe. Still, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at my phone, waiting for any word from Kayla or Cynthia. Around 3 a.m., a text came from a number I didn't know. "It's Mason. We need to talk. Alone." I almost ignored it. Mason had been Mom and Dad's soldier forever. Why trust him now? Why should I believe you? I texted back. His reply was immediate, "Because I'm done being their puppet." The next morning, I showed Dr. Barnes. He was cautious but agreed it was worth hearing out. He even insisted on driving me and waiting nearby. At the coffee shop, Mason looked wrecked. Hair unkempt, same clothes as yesterday, eyes bloodshot. "You look like hell," I muttered, sliding into the booth. He gave a humorless chuckle. "Rough couple of days. Cut the small talk. What do you want?" He stared into his coffee. I saw the photos. Kayla's bruises. CPS showed me when they interviewed me. His voice cracked. "I didn't know it was that bad, Neil. I swear." I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat. "You knew. Maybe not the details, but you knew what they were capable of. And you didn't care, as long as you were safe." His face twisted in pain. "That's not fair, isn't it? Where were you when I was whipped for spilling juice? When Kayla was beaten for not ratting on Cynthia? You were downstairs being praised as the golden boy." Tears filled his eyes. "I was a kid too. I was just trying to survive." For a second, I almost walked out. But there was something raw in his face. Something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. "Why are you really here?" I asked quietly. He took a shaky breath. "Because they're planning to destroy you. They've already told the family you're unstable, that you brainwashed Kayla. But I'm not going to let them do it." Then he pulled out his phone. "I have proof." He showed me a series of text messages, conversations with our parents. Messages where they plotted to discredit me. Messages where Dad promised to teach Kayla a lesson she'd never forget if she came home. My hands shook as I read them. Holy S.H. Mason. "I know. And there's more." He opened his voice memos and pressed play. My mother's voice rang out crystal clear. "We just need to convince everyone Neil is crazy. No one will believe him then. We've been planting that idea for years." I stared at him. "Why would you record this?" "Because I finally saw them for what they are," Mason whispered, shame on his face. "And I don't want to be their weapon anymore." For the first time in my life, I saw my brother. Not the puppet, not the perfect son, but a scared, broken kid like the rest of us. "Will you testify?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Yes, whatever it takes." I immediately texted Stephen. He called back within minutes. "This changes everything." And it did. The DA dropped the kidnapping charges. CPS expanded the investigation, interviewing teachers, neighbors, relatives. Cynthia was thriving in foster care, texting me daily about sleeping through the night for the first time. Kayla struggled with nightmares, but at least she was safe. Then Mason called in a panic. "They know I gave you the evidence." Dad's furious. He tried to hit me, but I got out. When he arrived at Dr. Barnes's, a dark bruise marked his cheek. "Welcome to the club," I muttered, handing him an ice pack. He gave a hollow laugh. "Guess I earned that one. For all the times I didn't stop him from hurting you." The next day, CPS pulled our youngest sister, the other twin, out of the house too. All four of us were safe. Away from them. For the first time in my life, freedom didn't feel like a dream. Felt real. They walked into that hearing with an expensive lawyer at their side, polished and ready to perform. His strategy was simple. Make me the villain. He painted me as the family troublemaker, the manipulative brother who had brainwashed his siblings into spinning lies. They even paraded in relatives. Cousins, an aunt, a family friend. All swearing that my parents were wonderful, loving, devoted, that they'd never seen a hint of abuse. But the truth was in the evidence. They couldn't hand-wave away Kayla's photos. They couldn't silence Mason's recordings. And they couldn't explain why 4 kids, independently, were telling the same story. Judge Emerson presided that day, and she wasn't the type to be fooled by crocodile tears. She was sharp, stern, the kind of woman who could cut through lies with a single sentence. When my mom turned on the waterworks, sobbing about how much she missed her children, Judge Emerson leaned forward. "Mrs. Mitchell, I've reviewed this case thoroughly. Your daughter's injuries are not consistent with discipline. They are consistent with prolonged, severe physical abuse." Just like that, my mother's mask cracked. Her tears vanished, replaced by the face we all knew too well. The cold, calculating glare of a woman who never expected to be challenged. "These children have been given everything," she hissed. "Everything, and this is how they repay us? With lies." Judge Emerson didn't flinch. She raised an eyebrow and said calmly, "I think you've just demonstrated exactly why your children are afraid of you, Mrs. Mitchell." The room went silent. In the end, the judge terminated their parental rights to Kayla, Cynthia, and their twin. Mason and I were already adults, but a restraining order barred our parents from contacting any of us again. It should have felt like victory. We were free finally. But freedom doesn't erase 18 years of trauma overnight. The real battle came after. We each started therapy individually and sometimes together. Kayla and Cynthia stayed in foster care, but I visited every week. Mason found an apartment near campus and let me crash on his couch until I got on my feet. We tried to relearn what family was supposed to mean. to unlearn the twisted lessons we'd been taught. It wasn't easy. Kayla still flinched at raised voices. Cynthia apologized constantly for things that weren't her fault. Mason wrestled with guilt, haunted by all the times he hadn't stopped them. And me? I had nightmares, always the same, where I failed to protect them. But slowly, painfully, we got better. 6 months after the ruling, Thomas, my old roommate, sent me a link. Dude, you need to see this. It was a news article. My parents had moved to some small town 3 states away, joined a church, reinvented themselves as a sweet couple whose children had been stolen by the system. And unbelievably, they'd started the process to become foster parents. But they hadn't counted on the database. Someone flagged them. Their mugshots were plastered across the article. Arrested for falsifying their background to gain access to children. I showed Mason. He read it in silence before whispering, "They'll never change, will they?" I shook my head. No, they won't. And that was the truth. They'd lost their grip on us, but they'd never stopped trying to control something or someone. But this time, it wasn't us. We had broken the cycle. The 5 of us siblings started building something real, something ours. A family based on protection instead of betrayal, support instead of fear. Last weekend, we all crowded into Mason's apartment. Pizza boxes on the table, board games spread out, laughter filling the room. It was chaotic, messy, normal. At one point, I leaned back and just watched them. Kayla arguing over Monopoly rules, Cynthia giggling so hard she could barely breathe, Mason shaking his head at all of us, and I felt something I'd almost never known. Peace. Kayla must have noticed me staring because she came and sat beside me. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. I slipped my arm around her shoulders. "Just that. We're going to be okay." She smiled softly, resting her head against me. "Yeah, we are." And for once, I believed it. It wasn't a perfect ending. Healing never is. But it was real. And it was ours. We weren't defined by what they'd done to us anymore. We were defined by what we chose to do for each other. And for the first time in my life, the future didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like something worth living for.
Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.